Hello and welcome to another one of my videos. In this one we're going to be looking at making more rosette designs or techniques to making different aspects of the rosettes. So let's have a look. In the last video we did mostly rings and just started getting on to checker patterns, but before we do more checker patterns, let's look at this rope type component, which can be combined with other patterns into something quite nice. To get started, I'm going to have a baseboard with a nail in it and put a piece of paper on it as a starting point, and my circle as a guide for where I'm going to start the thing. Then I'm going to take a ruler, and the thicker that is, more of a diagonal we're going to get here. I'm just going to draw a whole bunch of guidelines just to keep our thing in order. So I'm going to place at least one ring against or around that plug there, and then with some glue on another one, I'm going to glue that on so that the excess glue will stick that lot to the paper. So I've got some sticks with clamps just to press that ring against the cylinder and to glue down on the paper. So there it is stuck on, but it's also beneficial to have your plug in there to take pressure. Now to prepare the material for the actual design, you need the thickness of the lines that you're going to have basically, and you're going to have to prepare the end of that so that it makes a little bit of a wedge shape, maybe a centimetre there, and you're going to sand a little bit of a wedge for that first centimetre, just a little bit. And that angle will be roughly the angle from the centre outwards of the width of the thing to compensate for the wedge shape of the stick. Then I'll cut 2 or 3 centimetres of that off and put a nice thick pencil line on which is the fat end, and to delineate from what's the fat and which is the skinny end. Lots of pencil there. On a cutting board, and put another stick and something the size we want, roughly the width of a matchstick. Then with another little stick on top, position that over there and clamp it. To now take that piece we have prepared, butt it in there, get a sharp knife down the grain. I can now drop it, and now I have a stick with it marked which is the top side and which is not. Now with the spot there on that end tells me that's the fat end, and it's going to lie sideways so that I now have my wedge shape, and I also want to cut an angle on the point. We can now apply some glue and with some tweezers take that stick, making sure our fat part's out, and line it up with the first line. So with the spot facing forward, that point will go in there and continue with the next colour. And just checking occasionally that they line up with those guidelines to make sure you've got your angle right on the wedge shape. So there we have it completed with all the sticks around, and then we take a compass and we're going to define the width and draw a line. And with a sharp knife I'm going to, on that line, just trim off those little sticks. Sand that nice and rounded, get all the bumps off. Then I'll glue another ring on the outside of that just to delineate it and continue with your design. Probably one of the easiest of the checker patterns is a checker pattern which is a random speckle, which has its uses, a random speckle. And to do this one, you're going to need some good thick plywood with some good lines delineating. Going to draw a line of about 3 to 4 millimeters, and then I'm going to cut a slice or various slices of that. Then I'm going to sand them down with a block until this is as thick as the plies are wide, so I get little squares. Cut those in half. When you put them all together, you'll notice that the spots all line up. Well, you need to basically flip every second one so that you get a good mixture of spots. Glue those and clamp them together and let that dry. Now, once you've glued them all together, you clean up the sides with a sandpaper, and we need to put a little bit of a wedge shape on the end to compensate for that circle. So I can put it on the side there and draw a line. And then we can plane and sand that little wedge shape on. And give the whole thing a coat of glue, all sides, just to seal the edges for cutting. So with a stick to support that, I'm going to put it into the cutting thing, and a stop at about 2 or 3 millimeters. Cut one off. We have enough of them cut to install. I'm just going to get a bit of glue on the finger here and put it on the sides. Plenty there so that any overspill is going to glue it to the paper. And we just plonk it down. Now occasionally from the centre pin there in a straight edge, just make sure that you're maintaining your angle a little bit, just to keep things going in the right direction. So we can now clean up that border just a little bit to prepare it to put, say, another delineating ring around there, and it'll look quite nice. I have glued the outer ring on there with these clamps and leave it to dry. So by the time you get some varnish on and install it, say in a budget guitar that's lost its sticker, like this one, it'll be fairly decent.